Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Growing Pains. So, in today's episode, I'm going to be joined by Rhys Elliott. Rhys is a good friend of mine. He currently works as a game analyst at MIDiA Research. We actually used to work at Newzoo together before. And MIDiA itself is a company that looks at entertainment and media analytics, part of that being games, which is where Rhys specializes. I'd highly recommend everyone to just check him out. His content is amazing. Like, he's definitely one of the most knowledgeable people in the games industry, and his content around sort of trends and what's been happening is really good and really well written. So I highly recommend, especially now that games journalism kind of seems to be a thing of the past to some degree. I'd highly recommend you check out his things, his content, because he has some really interesting pieces around what's happening. And a lot of the basis of today's discussion is actually based on some of the trends that he's identified for the next year. So that's going to be what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about sort of where we are in the games industry right now and what are some of the key things that we see coming into effect and impacting the games industry both in 2025 and beyond. So this is sort of an early year trends episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. And as always, if there's any feedback that you have for me, definitely let me know. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one. Enjoy. Welcome back to another Growing Pains episode. It's actually round 2 of recording. So for the second time, you want to give us the intro, Rhys?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, we just recorded like an hour of the podcast, but technology died on us, so here we go again.
Yeah.
But I am Rhys Elliott. I'm a games analyst. I work at a company called MIDiA Research. We cover the cross section of entertainment, music, video, audio, the creator economy, social media, games as well, which is my focus. We mainly do consumer research, but we also do consulting. And our big kind of mantra is that the insights should be a big part of it as well, not just the data. So how we kind of contextualize it, even if this means potentially annoying big tech or a client, we kind of stick to our guns on what we think is the right approach for our clients and what the data and kind of MIDiA's experts kind of think. And that's something I've never kind of had at work before. So it's really empowering. And it's really kind of fun as an analyst as well to just really kind of go with what we think is correct rather than being beholden to other forces, let's say.
Yeah, tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Definitely
Yeah,
explore that.
exactly. But before MIDiA, I used to work for a different company as a games analyst. I worked for Newzoo. I was there for about 6 years. And before that, I've done marketing, web development, quant research, quite a few different things.
Yep.
But games, right, have been my passion always. I'm neurodivergent, so I've always loved games. It's been like a special interest of mine. And I've worked technically in the industry in 2007 when I worked in a game store. And I did that from high school up through uni. But that's retail, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was good stuff, right? I think we did go on a tangent there. We talked about the old days of gaming, the midnight releases, the physical stores, playing the latest game, like back when you didn't have money as a kid and everything wasn't free to play. You just went in with your
Good
friends
times.
after school, built those communities. Yeah, it's the digital transformation has had its ups and downs, I guess, but I definitely miss those days. I think we already covered that, but without
I can't
retreading
do it
too much of
again.
it.
I can't do it again, Jay. I can't do
Without
it again.
retreading it, let's go more. So like this episode, we're gonna be talking more around trends anyway. So did you want to just reset the scene and then we can start with different trends this time?
Yeah, we'll start with different trends this time. All right, it's been a bloody. Can I swear?
Yeah. Go for it. Everyone's
Yeah,
over
it's
18, or they should be.
yeah, but it's been a bloody rough. Not the bloodiest swearing, but yeah, it's been a bloody rough time for the games market, right? Like a lot of industries, games overextended themselves after the pandemic, which was a black swan event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was at home, interest rates were low, so engagement with and also spending on games just kind of skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And then a lot of publishers, kind of swayed by analytics companies and McKinsey consultants and those kind of ilk, thought that like double digit growth would continue forever and told their clients that. So there was this belief that the games industry would grow at that kind of crazy rate for forever. And so publishers kind of greenlit a lot of risky projects. And as game development cycles are very long now, 4 to 6 years for AAA, we're only just kind of starting to see the fruits of those labors.
Mm.
And the games market is in a different place right now. So a lot of those things aren't and won't pan out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess slightly different question to where we started last time on this for me now is looking at trends, looking at things. I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff where the games industry seems to follow these trend cycles, right? You've got everybody wanting to make that roguelike over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had success of these AA games like Helldivers 2, which we kind of talked about a little bit before, where it came out of kind of nowhere, but it was very much the same formula. And then they did one different thing, which was make it like cooperative instead of competitive, right? So it's just a slight spin that makes it feel unique, but largely similar games and like similar things with Marvel Rivals, like you said, looking at the Overwatch audience. So if we're looking at more broadly when you're looking at innovation or new types of games and things, what is the best way for a game studio to take a risk, or how do you just genre chase and try to do something differently, or where do you risk and try and build like a dead genre back up or something?
No, I think you've got to work with your community, right? Like look at Baldur's Gate 3, even I mean this is a crazy one, but like Star Citizen, like
Mm,
think what you will about that, but they've been building that thing, whatever you want to call it, alongside their community. And I think, yeah, like just like talking to gamers and like seeing what is actually going on, looking at what younger players are doing and what they're
yeah.
thinking and their behaviors, that can help you kind of build for the future. And of course, like if you are going to like trend chase or try to trend chase, don't take 6 years making that game, because by the time it's hit the market, the trend is going to have moved on. I mean, there are like differences there. There's, I mean, some exceptions. That is, like you mentioned, Marvel Rivals. I think NetEase there, they kind of saw the sinking ship of Overwatch, saw the success of Apex Legends, and knew there was room for
Mm,
a character shooter or hero shooter that is good quality, leverages a great IP, and is just kind of embedded with the community and what they want, right? And we mentioned this earlier as well. Like their live ops treadmill is so good. Like they've just released Fantastic
mm,
Four. I think they said they're going to do a new character every 1.5 months, which is real insane, like in terms of like balancing and keeping
yeah.
players happy. And we also mentioned as well that kind of it's an opportunity for Disney as well, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
struggling with their kind of films, right? The
Yeah, too.
superhero trend is kind of dying in some ways, and so they're like their numbers in the box office are not hitting like they used to. But like now, if Marvel Rivals keeps like retaining players and keeps building this momentum, which early signs show that it is, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will forever, but it might. But it is now an avenue for Disney to kind of
Mm,
introduce those kind of less popular superheroes like Fantastic Four, which are kind of goofy and unserious, and
yeah.
people aren't really interested. But they could be the next Guardians of the Galaxy if
Yeah, yeah.
like Marvel and Disney and NetEase kind of approach it right and kind of use these kind of synergies. Oh my God, I sound like a McKinsey consultant now, Jesus. But yeah, I said it. If they like leverage these synergies to kind of benefit everyone, right? That's what this
Yeah.
cross media stuff is all about.
No, exactly. I think in a way it's like you saw it with the MCU where they made like B tier superheroes into like the big shots, Iron Man, Captain America, all that, like before the MCU no one cared. And now it seems like games is the new format for them to basically redo that. Like salvage some of these B list or C list characters and like bring in the mainstream sort of momentum and audience sort of forefront, right? Like if your kids or, teens, young adults are into these characters, they're gonna go see movies about those characters or shows about those characters. So in a way, it's just another way to access the audience, which we've seen a lot with the transmedia thing. I guess not
Yeah.
to delve too closely into some of what we've already spoken about. We want to try one of the other trends to start talking on first.
Yeah, I mean, let's go with multi-game subscriptions, right? Like
Okay.
Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus and Apple Arcades. Like, I think they're going to take a bit of a back seat going forwards.
Mm-hmm,
Lots of people said that multi-game subscriptions were going to be the main way that consumers access games in terms of distribution
yeah.
eventually. Like Spotify and Netflix are dominating music and video distribution. A lot of people thought the Game Pass would kind of do the same for Xbox, and that's another kind of learning lesson. Like, just because something's growing 1 year doesn't mean it's going to grow forever, ever, right? Like
No,
games industry.
I think, I mean, for me, it's this thing of, and going to another point in terms of like recent games being so bloated, the problem for me with something like a Game Pass or a distribution model for games versus music or film or TV is like music, film, TV, your music, you're like 3 to 5 minute song. Film is your like, 20, 30 minute episode to like maybe 2 hours max. And people already struggle with a 2 hour long movie, even on this, right? Most of the biggest things on Netflix are usually shows now, rather
Yeah,
than, and you
people
get
and
binging.
people watch that stuff like passively while going on their phone. And
Exactly,
like
exactly.
you're right. Like you can listen to hundreds and hundreds of like Spotify tracks a month. You can watch dozens of movies and TV episodes. But most people like only have time for like one game, or even a few
Exactly.
games. But that's even for like highly engaged players like us. Like we have jobs, we have friends. I mean, I have a couple of friends,
That's
but
fair.
like you can't like really play these 5 games a month with these drops that are on these services. It's
Yeah,
different, right? And at
yeah,
the same
exactly.
time, like most gamers, they're already served by free to play markets, so they don't even have to pay
Yes,
for Fortnite, for
yes.
Candy Crush, for Roblox, for League of Legends. And then others like us and lots of other core gamers, we're happy to just buy, like, I don't know, for me it's a game a month really.
Yeah,
But for others it could be like a couple of year, like with your Call of Duties or your Maddens or your FIFAs.
no,
So
exactly.
yeah, like the market, in my opinion, has kind of spoken. And like also when you look at the subscriber numbers for PlayStation Plus and also Nintendo Switch Online, they're kind of already stagnating. Xbox is a little different because last year, at the end of last year, it released the new COD on Game Pass for the
Hmm.
first time, a result of the Activision
Yeah.
acquisition. I hate saying that, Activision. Yeah, but as a result of that, so that kind of set a new baseline for Game Pass and therefore multi-game subscriptions in general. But what's the next thing? There is no next thing. That's just the new
No.
baseline. And yeah, I think subscriptions will keep growing towards the future, but that's just going to be a result of increased prices and
Yeah.
companies trying to like maximize ARPU. I mean, there is the kind of Hail Mary of like an ad-based subscription tier, but
Hmm.
those aren't going to be multi-game subscription revenues. Those are going to
No.
be ad revenues, right? So yeah, it didn't pan out like many thought it would, but it will remain a kind of secondary revenue driver in the ecosystem for those like very very core gamers who play for like like dozens of hours a week and can kind of get bang for their buck through Xbox Game Pass.
No, no, I absolutely agree. I think in a way what limits this is sort of the unique value proposition for games, which is that it's like the best value for your buck for your entertainment anyway. If you buy a 70-hour long game, you want to play that 70-hour long game and not the 50 other games that you might have access to on the system that are also all 70 hours long.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a way, it kind of works against itself when you're looking at subscriptions. I think the one thing that I would be interested to see is like if we go to a world where like Netflix is semi trying this unsuccessfully so far, where you have like a multi-model subscription service where it's like, they do like Netflix does the video, all that distribution, then say they partner with like an Xbox or Microsoft to be add-on Game Pass on top or something. So it's like you get both your film and games in one subscription package. I think I could see that working better maybe. And if Netflix, gets away from the bullshit stuff they're making and actually makes decent things or goes down maybe the visual novel element, uh, like interactive stories, I could see that working a lot more for them. But yeah, as a standalone service, just games, I just don't know. I don't see I can see the value in it. I just don't see how effective it is for a consumer when we have just scarce resources in terms of time. Like you just can't spend that much time. Like if I
No,
have a
you.
thousand games, it's honestly worse because then I have too much temptation. And I'm like, oh, this one game I might not like. I just wasted 5, 6 hours. I try another 10 games, and it's like I don't. It's that thing of when you have too many things, right? If I've committed to buying one game, I'm like buying the new Final Fantasy or the new Spider-Man or whatever. I've committed to that game. I've paid for it. I've already put my money there. Like I want to get the most experience from it. If I buy a subscription service, I have 1,000 games. I have so many choices I can go for. Like this is still the sort of choice paralysis that you have on Netflix when you're choosing to decide to watch something. There, my commitment's usually 20, 30 minutes an episode. Here, it's like at least like a few hours to get through a tutorial of a game. So
Yeah,
it's just
it
the scale
is.
so different that I'm just like, I feel like the subscription model, just for a lot of those reasons, just does not make sense for games as a standalone thing.
No, they're just, yeah, they're niche. They're for like power gamers, for like, people who just have lots of time to play games and want to play several games a month. I mean, there is the discoverability element of it,
Mm,
right? It's easy to just like give games a quick try, especially with Game Pass Ultimate. Like one thing because I have Game Pass Ultimate,
yeah.
one thing I do there is like use the cloud functionality to just
Hmm.
cloud gaming, just quickly jump into a game, see if it's something I'm interested in. But then, like, it is low barrier to entry, but also low barrier to exit.
Yeah.
Like, I'll play some of them for like a minute, be like, nope, and bounce off. And that's not good either. And you also touched on Netflix as well. Like, there's a possibility there might be divesting itself from games a little bit. Like, there
Mm-mm.
have been some engagement gains recently with the Squid Games mobile game, but they're not kind of like getting any revenues from it. And like they are doing an internal reshuffling
Yeah.
now. They're backtracking from AAA games, or at least it seems that way based on certain
Yeah. I
reshufflings
think
and
that definitely
things.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And like comparatively, they're doing really well in like live sports content. So maybe they see that the writing's on the wall and they're gonna shift. But again, like they should have known this going in. Like you cannot just like get into the games industry, like, spin something up in 3 years and become the next, Xbox, because Xbox had these challenges like 20
Yeah.
years ago, right? It was the entrance there. But like it like really tried hard and it took so long for it to get the momentum. It even took like until the 360 generation, which it then did squander in the Xbox One with the
Hmm.
focus on TV and things like that. But yeah, like big tech, you can't buy yourself into games. Like, look at Stadia. Amazon is, struggling a little bit, but has actually made some good games and
Yeah.
does have some great irons in the fire. But yeah, I think like Netflix divesting would also kind of, really stymie subscription growth. And
Mm.
Microsoft too, like, its eyes are on generative AI right now as a, corporate entity. And on the gaming front, a lot of the comms recently has been more about moving to mobile and
Yeah.
off-platform segments, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's been that whole battle, right, with the app stores having to open up, and then
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft, Epic, everyone getting their own mobile store and things like that. So yeah, I guess there's more fish to fry, and like mobile's still where you make more money, I guess. So if you're looking for something else to get it more of a slice of a pie, more than that 30% platform cut, it's easy gains if you can get it to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I totally agree. I think subscription services is definitely on a weird spectrum. But then you did have like an interesting take, less on subscription services themselves, but in terms of what's going to be happening to the future for consoles and things like that as well, right? In terms of maybe how they could merge this with future generations.
Yeah, I mean, the jury is still out on this one, but this is something I've been like tracking pretty like intensely for the past kind of week. It's been something I've been really interested in, something I think that we're going to see emerging as a bigger trend. So, like, just to set the scene a little bit there, like as like most of the devs watching this know, the generational leap between consoles is kind of decreasing. Games, like especially to more casual gamers who aren't kind of interested in frame rates and things like that, games like look photorealistic at this point. So like most consumers might see diminishing returns when it comes to upgrading to a PS6, for example. And a big indicator here is like half of PlayStation active users are actually still on the PS4. And like there's going to be even more issues trying to get the PS5 gamers onto PS6, right? If
Yeah.
there's so many are still on PS4. So it's a hard sell. And I think Microsoft have been very cognizant of this as well, having kind of lost the Xbox One generation and looking for USPs. So like to get at the trend that I've been looking at, I think we're going to see consoles looking a lot more like smartphones in terms of like monthly
Yeah.
plans as time goes on, and if the economy, keeps being as bad as it is in terms of macroeconomics and console prices rise, like the PS5 Pro is $800. That sets a precedent of a very high price point for the next gen. And Xbox already offers a kind of cell phone like plan with Xbox All Access. So it partners with like Target, GameStop, and Verizon in the US. And consumers can pay, I think it's $26 a month for an Xbox Series S and Game Pass Ultimate for 2 years. And then it's 37 bucks for the Series X, the higher end console. And PlayStation, I think, is also looking into this. And this is something that has not been kind of commented on in the games media yet, except in where it originally came from in a Famitsu interview with Nishino Hideaki, who is PlayStation's co-CEO. So I was reading that interview with help from one of my Japanese friends who translated it for me. And
Nice.
Nishino said there are some customers who are not willing to purchase the PS5 at its current price range. So we are
Yeah.
considering various methods, such as changing the way we sell the console. So I think that's another indicator of maybe a cell phone like pricing structure. And obviously this makes very expensive consoles more accessible and palatable for
Yes.
consumers who are struggling during the cost of living crisis, which doesn't really show many signs of slowing down,
Oh no, not in this
sadly.
world.
No, not right now. Anyway, yeah, let's not get too political, but yeah, there's a lot going on. But it also like can help consoles kind of hold on to being a platform as well, because it's less of a burden for even like console diehards to kind of upgrade to a PS6 if it just meant continuing their subscription.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's also kind of you could call it sunk cost fallacy as well. You're building up your game library, if you have PS Plus, you can claim 3 free games every month or something like that. And there's
Yeah.
still a thing a lot of people do. So yeah, this would be a very long term thing, but I can see it becoming more of a thing for consoles.
No, I definitely agree. I think, especially as like now what like PlayStation 5, everything they're going like $700 or something crazy. Like I can definitely see that as like a growing trend where and you have a blueprint for this, right? If you look at mobile, like you said, every iPhone is like 1,000 plus pounds or whatever. And you end up having it that people have those monthly like 20, 30 pound subscriptions with your SIM deals. So it's exact
Yeah,
same model. You have 20, 30 pounds and you don't notice it as much, right? If you're going monthly expenditure, it's just that big one-off purchase hits you a lot harder as a consumer than like, oh, I pay my electricity bills. This is just another bill. Or I pay my subscription bills to Netflix. There's just another bill on top where I pay another £20, £30 for a console and get a bunch of games out of it. It's like part of my entertainment system. So I think that's just a
yeah,
lot more palatable as a model, and it clearly works, like just psychologically, because it's worked for literally everything else we use. So
yeah.
maybe yeah, better way to do subscriptions, guys.
Yeah, and I think it could also tie into another trend as well that I've kind of been looking at a lot, and it's the portable kind of companion devices
Mm,
that PlayStation and Xbox are both reportedly working on. Xbox confirmed,
yeah,
PlayStation more rumored, but let's be honest. Like, and they
they're going
could
for it.
tie it could be like a multi-device thing, right? Like you pay 50 a month and you get your PS5, you get your portable PlayStation, and you get the PS Plus subscription. And like they bundle that together, and it might be enticing for not just, budget constrained consumers, but everybody, right? Like most people are on cell phone plans. Like, there are
Yeah,
a lot of people who will just outright buy a new iPhone for $1.50, but not in this economy, like we said
no,
earlier.
not the general
Yeah.
consumer.
Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about the portable companion
Yeah, yeah, for
devices as
sure.
another trend.
I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be big thing this year as well. You got the Switch 2 hype coming up now. They finally
hmm
what leaked the release or the announcement releases and all that. That's been going on the last few weeks.
Yeah,
So
tomorrow, right? Yeah, transparency.
apparently,
We're recording this on the 15th of Jan, and there's a lot of leaks coming out saying that yeah, on the 16th we're going to get the Switch console reveal. And I
yeah.
think and this is something that someone called Jeff Gerstmann, who used to run Giant Bomb but now has his own podcast. check it out on
Oh, nice.
Patreon. He's really cool. But he said that like it's a really good time right now to release a console or anything in the tech, or sorry, not release, announce a console
Mm.
or anything in the tech space, because CES just
Yeah,
happened. There's a
very
slowdown in
hyped.
tech news, so there is kind of a gap to kind of own the news cycle a little bit in terms of tech, entertainment, and media. And the Switch is a kind of more casual console as well as a core
Yeah.
console, so it has that mass appeal. So kind of unveiling it during this media kind of quiet period makes a lot of sense.
No, I mean for sure. Like Nintendo, whatever you want to say about them, I don't know how much I like what they've done with games recently, but like they know how to hit. They know how to hit. They know how to make it work. Like I think if you're looking at just console life cycle, you haven't seen Switch versus like PS2, right? It's the last big console I can see that had this long a tail.
Yeah. So
So
so what just to like prod a bit there, what don't you like about what they've done recently?
it's more just games. Like I don't like that they just recycle games and basically just don't make anything anymore. Like all my like where's
Hmm.
Mario Kart 9? Where's Mario Kart 9? Where's the new like Smash Bros or whatever? It's been like, you got basically just recycling old IP, doing a lot of like remakes of games that were already on the Wii U because it did not succeed that much and stuff. And I mean that's a broader trend, but like there's just not been much in terms of innovation from Nintendo side for me. I think they've kind of opened up the ecosystem a little bit, way more than anyone probably thought they would, but still way less than they probably should have. So there's just like lots of points of, I guess, contention and frustration. I think they've done a really good job with the Switch. Don't get me wrong. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think they've maximized that and like milked it for all it's worth, and like have still got a positive image after it all, which is honestly like more than you can say for pretty much any other console provider. Um, but yeah, just from a games point of view, for the price that you pay and for the games that you get, by and large, I'm just disappointed by the slate that the Switch has had over the last few years, and that might be partially because of like the limitations of the actual tech behind it. But you know,
Mm.
this is the almost 10-year-old console now, and the
Yeah,
games definitely feel aged.
I mean, yeah, it's true. I mean, I disagree in terms of like innovation, right? Like Breath of the Wild, while yeah,
Yeah.
it's an older game now, that changed open world games. It led
Okay.
to
Yes.
Elden Ring and things like that. And it really did change things. And Nintendo
Mhm.
do like to, release these weird innovative little things like they did with Labo. But yeah, you're right that they have been kind of coasting a little bit over the past 2 years, or I guess culminated with the release of Tears of the Kingdom. They haven't
Yeah.
really had, I mean, maybe Mario, yeah, actually Mario Wonder, which came about a year and a half ago now, a little less than that. But the reason why they haven't released any of these new IP, not new IP, like sequels like Mario Kart 9, new 3D Mario, etc., is because they're waiting until they
Yeah.
launch the
Yeah.
Switch 2, right? Because
Yeah.
we know that the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, so Nintendo needs to have killer content to get people to transition to the new generation. And I've seen a lot of people say that the Switch 2 is not going to succeed, but
Mm.
it will. But like
Oh
it
well.
almost certainly will, because these IP are the strongest in the world, right? And like I think in the launch window, in the launch year of the Switch, we're going to see banger after bangers as Nintendo tries to like acquire
Yeah.
users to the console. We're going to see, in my opinion, Mario Kart 9. We're going to see a new 3D Mario. We're going to see a Pokemon game. That franchise alone
Uh.
is enough to like
Yes.
get people on board, right? And also for the core gamers, there's like Metroid Prime 4. Metroid is quite a niche series, like despite it being, such a big part of Nintendo marketing and stuff like that. And we will also see some of those remakes, like the N64 era of games haven't really been remade, nor have
Yeah.
the GameCube ones. Like, so the virtual console stuff is going to be there. Nintendo
Yes.
has its like cross media stuff with the Mario movie, and there's always new
Yeah. Yeah.
gamers aging up into gaming age. It's gonna do really well. And if we, like you said, if we look at the development teams that work on 3D Mario's, that work on Mario Kart, they have been very quiet and they've not been just
Mm-hmm.
twiddling their thumbs. There's going to be an explosive launch. All the signs are kind of pointing at
Oh,
that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm very excited to see what they bring out. For sure. And yeah, it's less the like I'm just annoyed with Nintendo that they're kind of twiddling their thumbs a little bit. I'm like just give it to me already, you know? You've already done all the hype building. It's like same with GTA 6, right? It's like so many like you get, oh, maybe it's now, maybe it's now, maybe they're finally gonna do it. And it's just like it gets to a point where I think I'm at the breaking point of like, yeah, I just wanted so like just give it to me. You know, stop
Yeah,
teasing more than anything else.
exactly. But I don't know. It's important to remember that we're like the core gamers. We're obsessed with this stuff, right? But
Yeah,
like Nintendo's main target audience is kids. It's more kind of casual audiences, and they don't know any of this stuff, right? To them,
that's
they'll
true.
just this Switch will drop its announcement this month or next month, and it'll be all over Sky
TikTok.
News. It'll be all over. Well, if TikTok is still around in the US, but it'll be everywhere, and yeah, it's really going to kick off. But yeah, and there's also the Animal Crossing of it all. Like that's going to reactivate a lot of those COVID gamers. It's sold like
Mm,
45 million copies. It's
yeah,
insane.
insane.
It's insane. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean that like
Nintendo special in that way.
the whole cozy game
Hmm.
genre just like blew up over the last few years, like especially activating, like female game audiences and even other players around the world, like cozy games now are like a big shot thing. I know so many people that are like, yeah, let's jump on that trend now that roguelike's slowing down. So it's
Yeah,
always that
exactly,
thing.
exactly. And I think as well, the Switch 2 is going to be not a lifeboat, but it's going to be a way for third parties and indies as well to extend the product life cycle of some
Hmm.
of those games from the PS4 and Xbox One generation. Because when this original Switch launched, we were still coming off the Wii U, and everybody except Ubisoft, that is, was like staying away from Nintendo because like
Yeah,
they seemed to be on fire. But now everyone's like knows the potential of the Switch. So I think we are going to see a lot of publishers kind of coming in on the ground floor. We're going to see a lot of ports of those games from last generation. We might even see
100%.
some Halo on there, like with
Ooh, that'll be a
Xbox
big one.
I think they will. Xbox has said there's not really any lines for the kinds of games they're willing to take off platform now. So I can imagine we're going to see like maybe Master Chief Collection on there, or yeah,
Nice.
maybe even like PlayStation's looking at it too. Like, I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah.
they could cannibalize their portable, which I guess we'll get onto in a little bit. But having like games like Horizon Zero Dawn on that, they already did the Lego Horizon Zero Dawn, which they put on Switch as well.
Yeah.
So I think third parties, there's going to be more of an opportunity for the Switch
Oh,
2.
100%. I think there's
Yeah.
already rumors, things like, Final Fantasy VII Remake will be on there, for instance. You've already got
Mm-hmm.
things like the Persona, the Atlas games that were already there. So probably
Mm-hmm.
the new Metaphor game, which did like really well in terms of reviews and stuff on PlayStation, is probably going to be on Switch 2 as well as near launch, I guess. But
Absolutely.
it's things like that where you're definitely seeing, and especially with them all being Japanese developers, I think it's a easier sell to be like, we know how we work kind of thing. There's still a relatively closed gate there. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're there, I think they know how the content funnel works globally now and that they kind of need it. So I
Yeah.
definitely see a lot more of that. I guess going on to that portable side, then if we're looking at, you're already seeing in the broader space with both Xbox Game Pass, with what PlayStation's done with sending all their games to PC, although they usually do something like a 6 month exclusive on PlayStation and then like stream it out to PC, right? It's not usually like same day launch for a lot of these games. Is that maybe what more we'll see then with the portable or something? Is like the ecosystem will be exclusive for a time period, and then you activate more audiences by pushing it out onto other platforms? Or do you think they're just going to be trying to, avoid that risk of cross cannibalization in a way? They're going to just try to do same day releases.
Well, Xbox already kind of does the same day stuff for
Mm.
for PC, so I think they're going to continue doing
Yeah.
that, and they're also shortening their Xbox to PlayStation release titles, like with Indiana Jones that came out in December last year, and it's already going to be
Yes.
on PS5 in April. But as for PlayStation, I think that they're going to release their live service games on day one on PlayStation and PC. I think Xbox is probably a stretch too far.
Mm.
But the single player games, I think what they've been doing over the past, I guess, 4 years almost now, or
Yeah.
even maybe it's even more than that, they've been kind of testing the waters. They've been slowly bringing the PC releases closer to the launch of the PS
Yeah.
releases. and they haven't actually seen much revenue drops as a result of that. But I think it's like a 6-month sweet spot. So we'll see it. The first party PlayStation games, they're USP. They're Naughty Dog games. They're Insomniac games. They're Sucker Punch games with a Ghost of Yotai.
Yeah.
We're going to see those hitting the prestige games, so to speak. We'll see those hitting PlayStation platforms first, and that eventually will probably include a portable. And then 6 months later they'll come to PC, possibly even Switch, but I'm not sure. But they're already doing the work to create those scaled graphics and stuff to cater to different PCs and to cater to Steam Decks, etc.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be too crazy to say that they could also get it on a Nintendo platform eventually as well. So yeah, that's what I think there. But also I think in general, like, we should probably talk about these portable devices, what we at MIDiA call kind of companion devices.
Yeah.
So going back to the attention economy being oversaturated, we know that Nintendo noticed this early and then really smartly launched the Switch, which is hybrid, at home and portable, so you can maximize that time. And another tidbit from that interview, I can't remember if we did it in this recording or the last one, but there was a Famitsu. There was that Famitsu interview. And also in that, I think it was Herman Holst said that the PlayStation Portal, which is like the tethered device that kind of lets you play PlayStation games over your Wi-Fi connection at home. There is cloud stuff, but that's in beta. That has led to PlayStation players playing later into the night, so maximizing more of that attention. And so, like,
pre-bed screen.
Yeah, the pre-bed screen. You watch the big screen. You work on a medium screen, then watch a big screen after work, and then move on to the smaller screen. God, it's dystopian, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no. Nintendo noticed that you could maximize on that stuff quite early, and now everybody else is kind of playing catch up with like companion devices. So like the Steam Deck is a companion device to kind of high-end PCs. Xbox has kind of partnered with Asus with the ROG Ally, and that they're kind of companion device there. PlayStation Portal is the Wi-Fi tethered companion device to the PS5, and now Xbox, who've all but confirmed it from straight from Phil Spencer's mouth. And then there's Bloomberg reporting. There's a fly chasing me right now. And there was Bloomberg reporting that PlayStation's doing the same.
Yeah.
But they're going to do it natively now, right, with their own devices, their own kind of walled gardens, so to speak. And yeah, we're just going to see that the games industry, like most other entertainment sectors, kind of thrives on capturing and retaining engagement, and it's more often competing with social media, with the scrolls, the feeds, the short video apps.
Yeah.
And this is a way for PlayStation and Xbox to reclaim more of that. Xbox has been trying with the cloud stuff, but that's, if it does hit, that's decades away, if you ask me. Like we're not there on that one yet.
Yeah, no, I think cloud is still a ways. We've got other things in the pipeline right now. Like you said, Microsoft itself just split its thing to Gen AI more than this, anyways. But next, going on to the portable devices, I guess, what are your thoughts on something like the PlayStation Portable? Because like so far, I've heard very middling things about it. Like, it's nice, but it's not crucial. That's like generally the I guess input that I've heard from most people who have it or like used it, especially when you have something a comparison point like a Steam Deck or like a Switch, where the price point is basically the same as those, right? It's not that it's different or giving you a different library. It's like you have your own library, you just get to have limited use of it while you're in the same home.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it sells better than what we might think. And a lot of PlayStation peripherals do, actually. They're almost like Apple there in terms of being a lifestyle brand. Like so many people buy their headphones. They're like DualSense Edge controllers, which are like 200 euros. But yeah, I see the Portal as more of a test, right? Like, and I have another quote here from Nishino, who's now a co-CEO. This is what he said, I think it was a few months after they launched the Portal. Rather than profitability, we want to increase the amount of time we can play on the PS5. If you can play anywhere, I think people will definitely spend more time playing games. And then that interview later kind of confirmed that happened. So I think the Portal was a test, and it seems to have passed the test. and now kind of a new native portable is kind of building on this engagement maximizing strategy, but in a way that like more gamers can access. It's not cloud gaming, it's not streaming, it's in the device,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
Switch.
Yeah,
So
so like PSP days, that kind of thing.
yeah, like the PSP days, but I think what will be different there is it's not going to be a separate SKU. You'll be able to
Yeah.
just play your
Yeah, yeah,
PS5
yeah.
because yeah, that was the main issue with the PSP. Like it was like the PlayStation Junior, right? All the big first party studios and third party studios were making content for the PS2 and then PS3, and then the PSP and then the PS Vita that came after kind of struggled with content. Like at first there was some good first party content on the PS Vita, but yeah,
Yeah.
PlayStation just kind of abandoned it. But if
Yeah.
if you can play the library you already have, as shown by the Steam Deck, then that does maximize the engagement more.
Yeah, no, I think they should hopefully have learned both from the PSP Vita and then also the stuff they did with the PSVR as well to the point where it's like, yeah, just build into your own ecosystem already and keep it going. Hopefully, we'll see where that goes. But no, I definitely
Hmm.
agree. I think if they get to that point, and I think this is going to like another trend that you're seeing slowly gain traction is that thing of cross progression, right? That you can progress in the same game over multiple screens in multiple platforms. So I don't know exactly how far that will stretch between ecosystems. I kind of doubt that it will go from like PlayStation and then its own console to I don't know if they have the same game on maybe Switch or PC, if you're going to see that kind of cross progression yet. But that's definitely something that's more feasible and like actually doable now that I'm seeing people actually look at. So
Hmm.
it is a growing thing that I think, over time we're probably going to see more of, but we'll see exactly how far they push it. Like you said, I think right now we're still very much in the testing stage with all of these things where they're trying to figure out, okay, what is the place for a console in the ecosystem and in the world in general. Um, and yeah, maybe they'll even decide that there's no place for it. If we're looking at the Microsoft side with trying to inbuilt your Xbox into a straight out TV and then cloud gaming magically working, maybe that's what'll happen for them. We'll see.
Yeah,
But
but I mean, just to touch on the cross progression stuff, like Xbox handles that really well. So I have a Series X, I
mm,
have like a gaming PC, and sometimes, like I mentioned, I'll use the cloud gaming. Sometimes even on my mobile, even though it doesn't run that well, it's okay for turn-based stuff.
mm,
But the progression is seamless. But like obviously, it's through Xbox on PC. It's not through Steam, but the progression is seamless. And also I have Halo Infinite on Steam, and the progression kind of continues there too. And you can see PlayStation kind of trying to delve into that. Like you can connect your PlayStation account to Steam now, and that there has been some backlash there because
yeah.
they've forced that in some cases, which is a bad move, I think.
Yes.
But there's still kind of, I think the reason they're doing that, they're planting the seeds for a more kind of cross progression, but they're trying to take ownership over it via the PlayStation account, right? Which is what you already see with Xbox and stuff. So yeah, they're experimenting, like you said, but the seeds are planted and they'll probably grow into something. But yeah, we'll see because the platforms do not like um, sharing. So we'll see.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, it's gonna be really interesting to see, I guess, where that goes, even in terms of like data and things, right? Because these are still gated ecosystems. So even if they have that link with Steam, will Steam get access to all that? Like, will we see PlayStation numbers on Steam DB in the future? Who knows? Like, I highly doubt it, but
Yeah, I doubt that.
well,
PlayStation would not like that. They like to keep, like, while some analytics companies have like a rough estimate of MAUs, DAUs, all that stuff. Like the actual numbers are mostly a black box unless
mm,
PlayStation wants to announce them, and they do not want to lose that kind of PR control. So I would say they would not let that happen.
nope, nope. Just a pipe dream for us analysts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so okay, we've done portable, we've done game subscriptions. I guess keeping in line with that theme and with like future potential avenues for consoles and subscriptions. What's the thought of ad revenues, PC console? It's the big talk now. New monetization, rolling
Yeah,
ads.
yeah, ads. I mean, yeah, it's gonna happen, right? Like, I think console and PC revenues, like the rest of the market, they're facing growth challenges. But one kind of solace there is advertising as a new kind of revenue stream, right? And we're already seeing, when I keep talking about seeds, but we're already seeing the seeds there, like on the platform level, like in Xbox and PlayStation menus.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got an ad for McCrispy from McDonald's on my
Oh, no way.
Xbox dashboard not too long ago, and I'm on a diet, so like number one, fuck you.
Nice.
Just kidding. I love you, Xbox. But like, yeah, so I had that, so it's already happening in some ways. And like, if I open up the new Call of Duty, the first thing that it does to me is like, buy this, buy that. So like there it already happens like internally, so they just need to flip a switch. And yeah, there's going to be pushback from gamers, but there was pushback from gamers with microtransactions, with cosmetics, and now those things make up the bulk of like software revenues. um, but yeah, it's never going to be a massive revenue stream by any means. The elephant in the room is that game developers have experimented with it in the past and
Mm.
failed. Like Burnout Paradise all those years ago
Yeah.
had like in-game billboards, but things are different now. Like programmatic advertising advancements mean that like ads can be more automated, more
Mm-hmm.
targeted. Like PlayStation knows exactly the kind of games we play. Xbox, also knows that stuff. We also play. A lot of people watch videos on those things on
Yeah.
Netflix and YouTube. Like it's they know more than most about us than most consumers might think.
100%.
Yeah, and yeah, and another thing as well, and it's something we talked about in the old recording. Like gaming is now kind of more at the front of mind for marketers with these, Fortnite concerts and the brand activations there, and the aging up of the executive class. Like there are now
Yeah.
probably finally executives who actually play games, who understand games, and like it's also a necessity, right? The games market needs to grow.
Yeah.
Advertisers need to kind of reach young consumers who are playing lots of games, and with the TikTok ban in America, they're probably a lot of ad tech companies are scrambling to, for ways to find young players. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of, I think it's going to happen. It's going to start kicking off, I think, this year, but as time goes on, it's going to be, I'm not going to say insidious, but I just said it, an insidious creep. And it will just become
Yeah.
more of a thing, And also we got mobile developers
100%.
struggling in their kind of domain because Apple and Google's privacy changes have made it harder to like target users. So a lot of them are kind of like looking to console and PC. And
Yeah.
obviously those companies have a lot of advertising expertise, and they'll
Oh,
take
100%.
that with them to these new platforms. So yeah, we at MIDiA think we're going to see a lot more of that.
No, I definitely agree. I think you're already seeing a lot of that where mobile developers are already making the jump. They have a lot more of the data centric kind of vibe there. You had like Stellar Blade, right? That was like the Korean studio that did mobile and then switched and did pretty good on PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side as well from that, I think, games, as we've kind of briefly touched on, is just becoming so expensive to make and produce. You need to activate more revenue streams just to be able to grow or do anything nowadays. So I just think advertising is going to be a big revenue mover for console PC, and in a way, that's where sort of having this gate-kept ecosystem is really going to help, like Sony and Microsoft, because they have that data. That's like first-person data that they have, and
Mm-hmm.
that if they build it out, you can sell that to brands, you can sell that to people, and be like, hey, we're not going to give it to you, but like we know what this is. You give it to us, we can show your ads to the right person. Because like you said,
Yeah.
they have all this inbuilt. They have like, especially like I've been in the PlayStation ecosystem since PS1. I don't think they started tracking properly until like PS3 when you had the first live service, like digital stuff. But they have
Mm-hmm.
like a good decade to almost 2 decades of data on me as a user, just because my PlayStation account's been the same. So like they're gonna
Yeah.
know how I've changed or grown or what my interests are, and like that's also a system that you spend a lot of time on, whether you're browsing, looking at whatever. So in a way, it's like as big as something like mobile or anything else. It's like a huge part of at least my life. But then I'm guessing for a lot of consumers. So for brands, for a lot of things, I can definitely see advertising being like a huge activation in traditional PC console gaming,
Mm-hmm.
with sort of the data sinks that are there. So slight peripherally, slightly maybe more annoying for the actual players and gamers, but I can definitely see it being like a high value thing for executives to build onto this. And I think that's honestly where outside of the industry, the biggest sort of next pump is probably going to come is going to come from brands and advertisers. Like you've already seen that happen in the UGC platforms, and a lot of these brands have seen that be very successful. And the Gen Z, these young audiences are becoming harder to target because of like the Apple and Google privacy rules that you said. So this is just another platform, and considering that they're gatekept platforms, you don't even have necessarily to risk any of that. It's just biting the bullet and paying Sony to do your work for you.
Yeah, they're gonna like tertiarily become ad networks in some
Yeah.
ways, right? Like it's yeah. I mean, yeah, the plates are already spinning. We'll see. They do, but like we did kind of get at it a little bit, but they are gonna need to walk that line carefully. They don't want to,
Yeah.
piss off too many consumers because yeah. But
100%.
like also, like I said earlier, pissed off consumers are still gonna buy the products in a lot of cases.
They will.
Like yeah, you
They
want to
will.
play The Last of Us, you want to play Indiana Jones, then you got to put up with it. It's enshittification, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
I
a
think
thing.
the interesting thing there for me will be like if you do go the subscription model, like we said before, where you have that, mobile subscription thing almost. And then you have like the
Hmm.
ad tier of that, right? Like you have your like Netflix, Amazon Prime, they're already testing this with subscription services where they're doing ad tiers to lower the cost. So it's like, okay, either you pay like £30 a month, no ads, or even like Kindle, or you pay like, I don't know, 19.99, £20 a month, but then you get served with ads on your system. Right? Like that I could definitely see that happening. And for, most consumers, they'd be like, whatever, it'll be slightly annoying, but I'm getting this cheaper. So I think
Yeah,
it's
it's
just how you frame
proven.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's proven with Netflix, right? They were struggling. They were kind of reaching saturation with their subscriber numbers, and then they just created that new ad-based tier on the bottom floor, and boom, they increased subscriber numbers. And then as well, once if you subscribe on that lower tier, maybe if you do have a bit more money in a different month, and you're just done with the ads, then it's a pathway to be upsold or increase ARPU if you're a consultant.
Yeah, yeah.
It is, yeah. We can see it. Like the signals are pointing towards it.
Nice. Okay. Now going back to earlier territory, I guess to wrap up a few more trends before we finish with, I think we can finish with China. But yeah, no generative AI was made in the use of this game, or was used in the making of this game, the wrong way around. Right?
Yes, yeah. All right.
Go for it, Reese. You want to
I'm gonna
retread the old
rant. I'm
ground?
gonna rant.
Go
I'm
for
gonna
it.
rant. I'm gonna rant about generative AI for a little bit because I think I'll just say at the top. In the past, people were heralding esports as this big thing for gaming.
Hmm.
They heralded the metaverse, blockchain gaming, and like I had very strong feelings about those in the past, and was kind of almost silenced on that because companies I worked with at the time, I can't whether that was on a freelance basis or
Hmm.
I can't mention,
Yeah.
but the
People
client
wanted to chase the money.
was yeah, people wanted to chase the money and didn't want to annoy the client. But at MIDiA, one of our big values is to be truthful and authentic about the market, even if it might annoy some clients, even if it might annoy like the big tech ecosystem or go against the current of what a lot of other people are saying. So I think generative AI is a bubble,
Hmm.
candidly speaking. I think it will have a growing role in game development and will be useful in kind of making game development more efficient and help in production, which is something that you mentioned earlier. And even when the bubble bursts, it will remain in some form. The .com bubble happened; we still have
Hmm. Hmm.
.coms.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just think that there's just so much investment, go billions upon billions of investment going into this technology based on very thin use cases currently that don't kind of reflect an ROI there. And like everybody that I talk to in that space is like, yeah, but it's coming, it's gonna happen. Like, and it's been a year and a half now since the big chat GPT, maybe more than that, GPT
Yeah, like
kind
two
of
years.
revolution happened. Yeah, 2 years now. And I'm still waiting. They're running out of training data. Yes, AGI is kind of maybe on the horizon, but maybe not. Again, it's all kind of what
In
if
the air.
stuff based on just the tech industry is growth challenged and number needs to keep going up, right?
Yes.
And so they're desperate, and in a lot of ways desperate's one word for it. and generative AI is kind of seen as this silver bullet to like help, like, for growth continuing forever. But like it just, the use cases just aren't tangible enough yet. And every time a kind of market has come along with these big promises, but like, give us all this money and one day it might do this, it's never worked out. And there are some use cases, it's different to blockchain and the
Hmm.
metaverse because it has utility already,
Yeah.
but the utility doesn't reflect the investment yet, and
No.
I cannot see if it ever will. So like, yeah, but I guess I maybe like I'll let you give your opinion on
Yeah.
it as well, and then I'll get on to the actual like prediction as well.
Fair enough. Yeah, so I think we have slightly differing views there. Like, I agree largely with what you're saying, and I think we're almost in this cycle of jadedness with what happened with the metaverse, with what happened with Web3 gaming, and like the overhype. And I definitely
Hmm.
see a lot of that momentum on the AI side. Like, I definitely see a lot of the people that, were on the bubble riding the wave with metaverse and riding the wave with like Web3 are now riding the wave with AI. And I wholeheartedly agree that like a lot of those people don't know what they're talking about, don't understand games or tech in general, don't know what's happening, and are just basically saying what the popular media is saying to make money. Because that's just
Yes.
how a lot of the momentum works in the Western regions, especially right now. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I think by and large, the things we're going to see from this space that are pure hype trains are going to be pretty bad and leave a sour taste in everyone's mouth.
Hmm.
But where I kind of disagree, and I think we've kind of touched on this as well, is where it actually has a lot of utility already, like you mentioned. Maybe not to the level of the investment, but I think with any new technology, the initial thing is always a lot of sunk cost, right? One thing with the tech industries, I'll say in general as well, is if you look at it ever since the dot-com bubble, this is a speculation industry. Like a lot of tech products are not really tangible things. You're not manufacturing things or anything like that. Like Tesla, a lot of the like Nvidia, like a lot of the well, less Nvidia, but more Tesla and a lot of the like Uber, etc. Big IPOs that you've seen, both from the SaaS boom in the 2010s and all that, transitioning into what we're doing now in tech, is very much purely just speculation, and that's like 90% of the value in this industry in terms of if you're looking at it from like a bottom line number. So
Hmm.
that's why I think it's continuing with the constant like printing money and just pumping into things. Eventually, I do think that the costs are going to equalize. Like we're basically in a race to the bottom right now. Like everyone's trying to build their AI chatbot, the AI agents, all this stuff. And you're going to have, like one or two big conglomerates that are going to succeed and end up basically defining the next 10 years of how we work with tech, games, and development processes. And I believe that the AI technology itself has the value to help enhance what we already do. Like you can, from productivity gains, from being able to like have a small team. Like I've been testing out with some friends, and already like what would take us a few months to build or look at, we can do within the space of a week or two. So just from a gains point of view, from like a productivity standpoint, and from what it unlocks in terms of access to knowledge, which I think has been honestly the biggest constraint of sort of the last 20 years of the information age that we're in, is just that you have a lot of just gate kept knowledge, and that is becoming a little bit more freely available. We'll see where that democratizes in the end. But I do
I
think
mean,
that
like, just to push back on that, like, how is knowledge not gate kept? Like, search has been a thing for a long time, and like,
it has,
what's
but
the difference with generative AI,
with
except that some of the hallucinating means that the outputs are worse. It can help
so
you code faster, it can help people
yeah.
write faster and stuff, but like, this is like a supply thing. It doesn't change demand in these markets, and there's like, where's the money gonna come from?
The money will. Well, that's a more. I don't know. That's a tougher question for me to answer. I think I'm just enjoying it as a consumer more than anything else personally. That is allowing me
Okay.
to do more things faster, and making me more efficient as a person. Right? Like I can do more with a smaller team. Right? Like if I'm a development studio, I can build more. I can run QA. I can run marketing. I can do all that automated based on this, and help it make it do a lot of my analysis work for me and everything, and
Hmm.
to the point where I think it's good enough to replace right now like junior to mid-level people, roughly speaking. So
Yes, but like, where's the pathway for new developers then? Like,
I think what it means is that it gives you more time to focus on less admin stuff and more of the actual creative side. Like, I don't think
Hmm.
Gen AI should be used to get rid of the creative side. I think it should be used to get rid or expedite all the annoying admin stuff that ends up taking your day. So you have more time
Hmm.
to focus on the things you want to build and more time to focus on the actual building of those in the way that you want to build
Hmm.
it. So it's more as a tool to enable it, and hopefully that should allow you to build better products because you have more time to just do the building and to do it faster than, when you have months going on admin or general meeting plans. Like, we've been in meetings where those meetings did not go anywhere, right? Like, there was no
Yeah.
set agendas, there was no outcome where it's like, okay, this is the action points that everyone's going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. So a lot of those
Hmm.
admin meetings, a lot of that bullshit stuff that ends up taking up half of your day and like 90% of your energy because you don't enjoy that, right? So you feel drained after that and you feel less creative. So my hope is that if AI can help get rid of that particular pain point, it's just going to enable you to spend more of your creative juices and more of your energy in building better things that will hopefully be able to monetize better. And that's where the
I
money comes in, is from the efficiency gain or from building a better thing.
Yeah, I mean, I partially agree on that, but like efficiency is like more of a profitability metric than a revenue metric. And like these companies are kind of latching onto this to grow revenues as well.
Mm,
And like, I don't know, I just don't see it. Like
sure.
in an ideal world, like that what you say would happen, but like the tech industries are not going to use that efficiency to like let people be more creative. They're going to fire people. Like they're not going to do
Yes.
it. Like already like these companies are downsizing and things like that. And yeah, I mean we're getting into very like rubbery like ideological territory here, but like I think shaving 20% efficiency off making a game is not really gonna like increase revenues for the games market. The money people still control
No.
that. There's still discoverability issues. If there are more games being made quicker, there's still demand and like people spending is at the same amount. So like
Yes.
I mean I agree with like what you're saying ideologically, not ideologically like in terms of what you're saying, but like I just don't see how it's going to grow the pie, which is what a lot of these companies are saying. And like
Yeah, I
yeah, I mean,
no,
yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I don't think it's going to grow the pie, right? Like, this is, you could say it's, I don't know if I'd say it's good. I think it's good-ish as consumers, bad-ish for business is the best way I can frame it. Because like you said, yeah, because of that efficiency, you're going to get more games. You're going to get more stuff. You're going to get more content. You're going to have different loops and things. I'm hoping personally that, like, I guess maybe from the ideological or naive view of like, people get more creative, or like we talked briefly about this before, where we discussed, like the 10-year-old developer on Minecraft versus the
Hmm.
20-year-old and how their paths into games go in terms of learning game design and coming out. And I think it'll enable that like 20-year-old right out of college, because the games industry is super gate kept, and if you're trying to get your first job, as a lot of people probably know here, it's just not good. It's just not a good environment for that, especially right now. So I think for those people, it's going to enable them to be able to build good games that can go out and get traction, and hopefully they'll be innovating and doing cool things, which is my hope with it. That it's going to enable them to require less resources, funding, to give up less creative control. That would be the ideological standpoint for that. For the making the pie bigger, I don't think it's going to make the pie bigger necessarily. I think I'm hoping it's kind of going to redistribute some of the way the wealth in the system works, in that it's going to go to the point of like layoffs and things that we're seeing, where we have a lot of inefficient systems and like, a lot of like man children in senior roles at times. They're going
Hmm.
to start to be either displaced or have to kind of learn with the curve a little bit more because of this, to keep
Yeah,
relevant more
yeah,
than
that's
anything
fair.
else. And I think that's for me where the biggest thing is, that it's going to enable younger people or people that are more resource starved, and hopefully rebalance some of that ecosystem in terms of who can make a game, how can you make a game.
Yeah, I really really hope that happens, but I'm a little bit pessimistic about it because right now this technology is in its growth phase, so it's
Yeah.
cheap for consumers, but as time
Yes.
goes on, they're gonna raise those costs and will probably make it prohibitively expensive for
Oh,
those,
100%.
younger people, working class people, and it still might be gate kept. But again, this is all kind of like,
Yeah,
speculative,
we're
just
highly
like just
speculation now.
yeah,
But
just
no,
like the
I mean,
generative AI market, it's all very speculative. But
yeah,
like,
yeah.
but yeah, like I think there is a Venn diagram where we agree on some things, but like I think I'm just a little bit more pessimistic. I see, how can I say this? I see the way that some people in the industry and in positions of power in the industry talk about gamers and their
Hmm.
employees and things, and as a result of that, I'm very pessimistic about where these companies will look at what
Yeah,
like Mark Zuckerberg is doing with Facebook right now, what
yeah.
Elon Musk is doing. Like the people who win generative AI, if it doesn't pop before then and just like make the whole tech industry fall out from under it and our pensions. Um, if like the people who win it, like Sam Altman, are just it's gonna be the same again, right? It's just
Mm.
cyclical, and yeah. I mean, sorry, I'm getting a bit too
No, no
floaty.
worries, no worries, no
Yeah,
worries. I hear you and I agree largely, but I'm also just like, it's another wave, right? Like this comes and goes.
yeah,
Like this always comes and goes. I think the one, and it is all just like, I guess, how do you want to frame it? I think it's here to stay. So regardless of whether we like it or not, it's already in the MO. It's already proven its use to consumers. It's already kind of gotten us to the point, like people, we like being lazy, right? So the more ease you can give us, and the whole point of AI is ease, the better adoptability is going to get. So I don't see that gonna. I don't think that's gonna change. It's just gonna become a thing of like, how can it be used in a good way, or how can you frame it in a good way? I'm just hoping that it democratizes some of this and rebalances some of the systems that are getting too skewed right now. Because I
yeah.
mean, this is what tends to happen in a big like dot-com bubble, the financial crisis crash. Like this is for me at that kind of scale of level in terms of how it's going to change the world. And you always have winners, losers, and like a new sort of world order that comes into place. This is just historical, and it's going to go in that, and then we'll see. You'll have new overlords, whatever. But I think the world needs a bit of a shift, and I'm hoping that this rebalances more towards the younger generations, because I think they've had a lot of negative media and press about them without seeing too much traction in terms of like, what are you trying to build or how you're going. And I think, or at least my hope from the point of democratizing knowledge and having AIs mean that it's less gatekept, especially with more of these open source models coming out as well, is that people are going to have more access more freely to information and knowledge, rather than it being sort of one of the key distribution factors in the last 20 years of what you know and who you know is the main thing. Now the what you know component kind of hopefully fades out a slight bit. Not completely, it's still going to be a big thing. I think data is going to be a big thing, and like you said, once this race to the bottom's over and somebody wins, we might get back to dystopia overlord of like the set 10% of the world still control it. But now's a time where you can have that shift, and I don't know where we're going to end on the other side. I'm hoping it's more positive than negative, but you don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you know, but yeah, speculative
I
wise, I'm
mean,
hoping.
I don't know, but I'm just a little bit more pessimistic. But no,
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from for sure. But yeah, and I hope what you say happens, but I personally think it'll go go another way. But yeah, I think we should
Might very
agree to
well.
disagree
Agree to
on this
disagree.
one.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
but
you want
it's
to?
good. It's good to like. I enjoy these kind of conversations because like people kind of avoid them a lot. Like everybody just wants to like agree, and so I just
Yeah.
appreciate that we can just disagree and it's fine,
Yeah.
right?
No, I mean that's the best way to live.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So did you want to have any wrap up points on this, or we kind of covered most of it?
I think we mostly covered it, but I would just add that we at MIDiA, we did do some research. We asked 6,300 gamers what they thought about generative AI and if it would affect their game purchases. And we complemented that with some qualitative interviews in a report we recently released. And the main findings of that were that most gamers didn't care. They were
Mm-hmm.
neutral as long
Yeah.
as the game is good. And then it was kind of roughly equal for people who had a positive thought about AI and a negative, opinion. But oh, that was such an American. But I'm becoming so Americanized lately. But Um, but I think that will change over time as like the
Mm.
public becomes more kind of aware of the generative AI technology, and the
Yeah,
media as well, including streamers and stuff, tend to be a bit more negative towards generative AI. Obviously, they're worried about their jobs. Same with other tastemakers like developers. And so that might have like a downstream effect on what consumers think about this stuff as well. And
absolutely.
I think as well, just to go back to the prediction, I think this year that we will see in a kind of marked in bullet point a big-ish game saying like no generative AI was used in the making of this game. So yeah, just to cap off AI on that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that research point as well, like what it kind of reminded me of is like the whole MO around DEI as well, because that was like a big talk over the last few years. Having well, one from an accessibility point, which is slightly different to what I envisioned most of DEI as part of it, but I think the DEI side of where it's just shoved into your game for quick PR. And I think that's the problem with where AI can also see is if it's constructive and done well, it can be really good and can really help the game. This is with DEI, this is with AI, I think. And when it's just a quick money grab or a quick PR grab or a marketing thing, then it's just like you can tell. Like we can tell when we're being sold to if it's not done well, right? Like if something just
Yeah,
pops up in your face, you're not gonna like it.
yeah, I think DEI needs to be authentic to work. Like you can spot the companies, just jumping on the bandwagon a mile off. But I do think it's pretty bad that like companies like Meta and Amazon are kind of backtracking on policies just because the States has a new president. And like I mean, I personally think that like yeah, like diversity in games is good, like different stories is good, are good, but it needs to be authentic, right? And it needs to
100%.
come from an actual, you know, place of love and passion. It shouldn't just be like stapled onto a game and then like made as the headline in a press release. I think, yeah, DI is important, but as long as it's authentic. That's my
No,
take on that one.
100%. I agree with that. I think that's the big thing, right? Like you don't shove it in. It's like it's a respectful thing. You got to treat people with respect. If you're bringing in cultures or ideologies into whatever you're working on, whether it's a game, story, anything, you got to do it with some source of respect because like we're also in a very politically correct world where the internet has a very loud voice as well. So you kind of don't want to get too far down on that stream either.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I guess like this is a good like segue into Assassin's Creed getting delayed and maybe some of Ubisoft's woes
Yeah,
because there's a lot of like people like vocal minority kind of having an outcry about Assassin's Creed having a black protagonist because of like quotes historical accuracy. But then like if you go back to Assassin's Creed 2, Leonardo da Vinci makes you a flying machine. So
yeah,
like come on.
it's
But yeah,
fantasy.
should we
Yeah, let's
talk a
go
bit
into
more about
Ubisoft.
yeah, so they delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is like, as I just alluded to, it's based in feudal Japan. So it's been like one that people have wanted for so long
Yeah,
since
yeah, yeah.
since Assassin's Creed 2, right? People have been begging for it.
I do think the hype for it's kind of gone down a little bit though because of Ghost of Tsushima and now Yota and stuff. Like they kind of managed to sneak that in and take some of that MO away from Assassin's Creed. I think.
Yeah, agreed. And I think Ghost of Tsushima, I enjoyed that game on a like from a development level in terms of like gameplay mechanic, like the
Mm-hmm.
diegetic
Yeah,
kind of wind instead of the millions of icons on the map, like a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of other open world games do. And they took a lot of DNA there from Breath of the Wild too.
Yes.
I think yeah, that they did come and eat Ubisoft's lunch, I think. But I think I do know what you mean, like because like it's been delayed so many times as well. I think people are just kind of like you said earlier with the Switch, just like come on already. But Assassin's Creed is kind of a core
Yeah.
gamer thing, but it does also appeal to casual gamers. But so yeah, the news was that Ubisoft delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows by a month to like March 20th. Its
Mm-hmm.
original date was supposed to be a month before that, but they delayed it from Q4 last year.
Yeah.
And their words were, Ubisoft's words, they said they to better incorporate player feedback gathered over the past 3 months. It's, PR speak.
Yeah.
Ubisoft is in a tough spot, right? And like they're all likelihood talking to a company about a buyout, probably
Well, I mean,
Tencent.
I think that's in the news already, right? Like they've already, I think it was like announced today even that Tencent is they're closing in talks, and I think part of the reason they pushed this back is because I think Tencent wanted to outright buy them, and now they're looking at some sort of weird merger thing where Tencent, it would be like a new group, and Tencent would oversee some of Ubisoft's IP. So I
Yeah, it
think,
would be like they would go in private or something, and then maybe
yeah,
10 will like take some of the IP or whatever. But like, yeah,
exactly,
Ubisoft needs to do something, and I think the delay is more something to do with that. They're still negotiating.
yeah,
That their kind of focus is elsewhere. But I also think it's quite like serendipitous. I mean, it's a good coincidence, like it being delayed because like February is a packed month for game releases. You got
yes,
new Monster Hunter come in, which is like a cultural phenomenon in
mm-mm.
Japan, where Assassin's Creed Shadows is based, and also like it's
I
more
don't, yeah.
globally popular now.
Oh yeah, Monster Hunter's big now.
Monster Hunter that is, and it's also like a time sink game, right? So you don't want to be launching a game around that. And there's also
No.
Civ 7 in Feb, Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is a huge RPG, another time sink. And so like AC Assassin's Creed coming out in March, which is like comparatively quite quiet, depending on whatever Nintendo says, like
Yeah.
when they announce the Switch. I think that's smart, and it also kind of still puts it in Ubisoft's financial quarter and fiscal year actually. So I think it's a good move, and also some revenues will kind of like trickle over into the next quarter as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, like as a result of the announcement, Ubisoft shares dropped. Stock price dropped.
Yep.
But like that is a trend that we've kind of seen
Yeah,
for a
Ubisoft's
while
kind
with
of had it,
Ubisoft.
so I don't think it's new for them. But yeah, no,
No,
I'm
no.
hoping it does well. Like Ubisoft still has some very good IP. It still has a lot of good like I don't know if good game sentiment anymore, but like it has a lot of powerhouse franchises. And I
Yeah, it's got the
think
Tom Clancy stuff and all that.
yeah, so I think there's a lot you can do with it. They just need to come up with a proper game plan and execute it, whether that's with Tencent or however they handle it. Like, yeah, something in the management level needs to be refined. And I think that they're
Yeah,
doing it. They're doing it, right? The news shows that they are looking at that. So, by all accounts, skeptical, but like at least they're doing something. It's not just that there's a negative MO and they're just continuing letting it be that way. You can see that they're trying to take actions. So, we'll see what that
yeah.
ends up. I hope it goes well. But yeah, we'll see. I guess off the tail of that, Tencent China, the big thing in games last year in a way, right? You had this thing of like the games industry grew, which was the big skepticism that people had is that we weren't going to grow, we were going to shrink. That's why layoffs and everything. And I think the thing
I
that most
mean,
people don't
did it? Did it grow?
like a little bit. I think it was like a smidge, but it did like for China. China and Asia had huge impact last year with like Black Myth, with mobile. Like if you're
uh,
looking at the global scale, it
I
activated
mean,
a lot of different audiences there.
it grew, but less than the inflation rate. So did the
Sure.
games market actually grow? If for all intents and purposes, I would say no.
Fair.
Um, but I would also say that yeah, Black Myth Wukong is a great game, did really well, but a lot of that was just Chinese gamers buying it and
100%.
playing it. Like it's like a nationalistic thing, not in a negative way. Even it's nice to have that story adapted and told in a you know like high fidelity way.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I thought it was a great game. It was a little bit samey and like it was just kind
Yeah.
of a boss rush, right? But it was still for their first game, it was
It was really good. It was a
incredible.
lot of fun. I think what I liked is going to the DI point of cultural representation. Like obviously they're building it from China, and it's just a really cool environment, really cool framing. Like for a team that's relatively small to build that, I'm impressed. Like I think it was a very well done game for what it was, and
Mm-hmm.
they brought like the whole Chinese mythology thing to the rest of the world, and it did well. I think the bigger concern and shift that I have there with China is like, yeah, it activated a lot more of the Chinese audience and it is more nationalistic, but then it also made big splashes internationally. It did do pretty well globally, just generally.
Mm-hmm.
And what
Yeah.
the back of that from just development cycles for me means is you're looking at one of the most populated countries in the world. You're looking at a work culture that has 996. So,
Mm-hmm.
if we're talking about crunch, this is worse than video game crunch. And you're looking at people that have like mobile expertise, and they now have gotten rid with Black Myth. I think the biggest change has been like in China, the internal MO was that we can't build triple games, we can't build big games. Like it's just not feasible for a Chinese studio to succeed in that way. And they just did. So we're already seeing a massive push where China's going all in on mobile and they're kind of dominating that market. And I mean, like we'll see where that goes with the US regulations in terms of what it means globally. But like in the current state of things, top 10 games, top 15 games in mobile, highest performing games that are making money are Chinese. Most studios, the big ones, have some kind of investment stake by Tencent. And then you've got, now AAA games and big games are also being made by Chinese studios and being shown to have great efficacy and success internationally. And we're
Mm-hmm.
looking at a lower cost place, high fidelity games as well, and work culture that, has no real regulation behind it. So, what's your thought in terms of, I guess, just China as a gaming powerhouse in general? If this trend continues, what does it mean for the rest of the world? Because that kind of worries me to a little bit in terms of what they can potentially do with those kind of, I don't know, advantages, but just circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing necessary. I mean, yeah, in terms of premium games, it's a new thing. But Genshin Impact did really well on
Yeah.
console, and that's on PC, and that's a AAA game in terms of budget. They spent so much on like MiHoYo or
Yeah, yeah.
HoYoverse, but
But that
they
wasn't
spent
premium.
so much. Yeah, it's premium. Well, not premium, like because it's free to play, but it is AAA in terms of its
Yeah, yeah.
budget. Um, but yeah, that did gangbusters. Like Honor of Kings had like over 100 million DAUs at
Mm-mm-mm.
one point, and like, yeah, not many people in the West kind of know all this stuff, and also like Tencent's stake in so many different companies, and also at Marvel Rivals, which we talked about at the start of the show. That's made by NetEase, which is another Chinese company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Chinese companies have been part of this for a while, and like they help Western developers adapt their IP to mobile as well, like Timmy Studios
Yeah. COD
with
Mobile.
Call of Duty Mobile, and like there's countless other things, right? So I think, like, to answer your question, I think we are going to see more premium games out of China, much in the ilk of Black Myth Wukong, and like the developers, they're gonna have like they're gonna like share knowledge. Tencent's doing it as well. They have Honor of King Worlds
Mm-hmm.
cooking, which is looks a lot like Monster Hunter, and is they're trying to make that land in the West as well. NetEase and Tencent have been like setting up studios over the past 5 years in the West, like looking at console and PC. So again, yeah, it's gonna be good for gamers. I think there's gonna be more choice. There's gonna be more stories from other cultures. Like, how many times do we need to see Vikings and
Mm-hmm.
feudal Japan and like all this stuff, right? Like, I
Yeah.
personally want to see like more cultures in games, and I think
100%.
this trend
100%.
is kind of adding to that. It's additive, right? The good thing about premium games is that it's not as zero sum as live services, right? Like, you can find a nice little gap in a month or whatever, release your game there and do well. It's not like at the expense of a lot of other games usually. So yeah, I think it's going to be good for consumers. It's going to be good for the market. It might, I kind of pull at something you again at earlier. It might, yes, like the market conditions in China are different and tougher on workers with crunch and stuff. But like they might like innovate in new ways, like they did on mobile in the premium space,
Mm.
which will then like Western studios then will kind of take some of those ideas and adapt them into their games, kind of like like MiHoYo kind of adapted a lot of from Breath of the Wild, and kind of put that into Genshin Impact, and did the same with like the Final Fantasy and Persona
Yeah.
series, and
Yeah.
did that with like ZZZ and Honkai Star Rail. Maybe further into the future, Chinese developers, which have due to the workloads and stuff, can make games faster. Like, they will inspire Western developers in a similar way, right? Like, we'll see a mirror in there, long term. Could be
Well,
interesting, eh?
we will see. Does that bring back crunch in the West? Is that what we're gonna get to?
I hope not. And also, it's still happening. Actually, like
Yeah.
it's reported on less, but like it like crunch is part and parcel with the games industry, right? Like when you're
That's
hitting
true.
these deadlines, it still happens.
Gotta
It's
make
just
ends
not
meet.
talked about as much because all the journalists have been bloody laid off.
Yeah, no, I guess we'll have to see. That's still a big one in the air, and I think we've still got like, I think this year's going to be very interesting on that point where we're probably going to have the most political year for the games industry like ever, with what's happening with the Trump administration and like the regulation with the potential blocks. Like if TikTok goes through, they start
Hmm.
limiting things with Tencent. Like if you have separate app stores where Chinese games can't be on the US market, that's like a huge differential blow across the games, like mobile games specifically, but it's really going to put a lot of things into question. So we're going to have to see where that comes or goes. Or
Hmm.
maybe, they do
Hmm.
the thing with MiHoYo and like open a headquarters in Canada or whatever. But,
Yeah, under a new name, it'll be like Yo Ho Me or something. It's a
exactly.
completely different
Completely
company.
different company. We
Yeah,
pay local taxes. So
yeah,
we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with the regulation on especially media between countries. But I agree. I think having some new kind of fresh air almost with things like Black Myth and like the ideas that they're bringing, like you said, with the cross synergizations of a lot of the current monetization systems that's been built on mobile and are slowly trickling to PC console comes from the East, right? Like primarily free to play is a Eastern mechanic that we just kind of copied and ripped off and like put into Western games with the mobile games that we're talking with, like hyper casual and stuff.
yeah. And
So
even before that, with like the Korean and Chinese MMO
yeah,
games, like like World of Warcraft and games like that, like they took a lot of inspiration from that. I mean, yeah, of course, World of Warcraft inspired those too, but like it has been a knowledge exchange from
yeah.
east to west for a long time, honestly, and you know that. But like a lot of people in the industry, not in the industry, but just a lot of people who talk about the industry maybe don't see like know that and talk about it as much as maybe we
Yeah,
should.
I think it's just not something that is appreciated as much when you're kind of in a bubble. And like the games
Yeah.
industry, it's a global thing. We're mainstream, but like the day in day out work of it, you're generally just looking at, you know, your neighbors, the people around you, and it's usually very like even if you go to different countries, like I've traveled a lot with games conferences, but that's like a minority, right? We're like maybe
Hmm.
0.1% of the games industry, whereas most of the people, like each country, each city, even in the UK, for instance, has its own local community of devs that you go to for
Hmm.
news and kind of the general momentum of what's happening. So you don't generally get to look outside, and I think that's a very important thing to realize that now that games has become mainstream and that your game is not succeeding based on local markets but on global markets and that politics regulation all this might impact it, you kind of need to understand some of these trends to be able to navigate that and build a successful global game, because you're going to
Hmm.
need a successful global game to be able to survive in this industry if you want to grow.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Probably a good place to end as well, because
Yeah,
I need to go to a meeting.
me too. I have meetings too, but yeah, look, it's been great chatting with you, Reese, as always. Always fun to
Yeah,
chat through all these
always
trends.
fun.
And
Yeah, no, it's
yeah,
yeah.
hopefully have you on again at some point. But yeah, thanks so much for sharing your knowledge, and thanks so much for taking time to basically do a double podcast essentially today now.
Oh man, yeah, I've spoken so much today, so I'm ready for my meeting. Like the
Yeah,
wheels are greased,
vocal
so to
vocal voice
speak.
vocal notes are already trained up. Nice. Yeah. Any last things you want to
Exactly.
shout about? Like, can people find you? Anything else you want people to know before we can wrap this up?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, check out the MIDiA website, MIDiA.com. Very easy one to remember. Or is it MIDiaResearch.com? I should look that up before it's
Media research.
MIDiaResearch.com. Yeah, and we've got a lot of cool content coming up. We're working on our games market forecasts right now, and we're going to release that by the end of the month. It's January now. So yeah, look out for that. And yeah, if you want to follow me for some more of my insights, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Rhys Thomas Elliott, or I'm on X, but I don't really use it that much anymore. I kind of moved over to Blue Sky, and I'm
Yeah.
at Super Rhys there. That's Super and then HYS, and that's my
Nice.
kind of handle everywhere. So yeah, if you want to follow me, go for it. But yeah, you're probably sick of me after all my
No,
yapping
no,
on
no,
this.
no, no. I think there's lots to learn from you. I definitely recommend everyone follows you, and I'll have links to those in the podcast descriptions for people as well. So yeah, no, it's been awesome chatting with you, man. Thanks again as always, and yeah, we'll hopefully catch up again soon at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Thanks.